And we're going to start with, as Don was just talking about, MCU and all of the news that have been coming out of kind of almost a massive shakeup going out there, coming off of Loki and ending this writer strike, and they're starting to make announcements. And we're gonna dive right into it. Before we do, we want to make sure you don't miss a thing. So you want to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast on all podcasts and social media services. We are everywhere at Raised a Geek. You can follow us, join the conversation. You can also shoot us an email over at raisedageek@gmail.com. So make sure you do those things. We'd love to hear from you and see what you think about the MCU's woes, as we're now coming off of the first weekend where the Marvels broke history by making the least amount of money in MCU history and has pretty much been labeled as a flop with a $270 million budget and a 47 domestic opening weekend. So I think it made like 109 worldwide for the first weekend and is cratering this weekend. So the Marvels definitely is taking some hits. Whether or not they're justified or not, we don't know because we didn't go see it. So we did not contribute to it. I guess we contributed to making no money.
Well, we're not the only ones who didn't go see it.
We are not the only ones who didn't go see it. And I mean, and realistically, it just kind of came just kind of as a full disclosure thing. It just really didn't look interesting to me. And I think
that's what I was going to ask is, why did you not go see it? Like, what is the solid reasons behind you're not going to? Because we're two guys who usually try to go to these Marvel films.
Yeah.
Maybe not the first day, maybe not the first weekend, but we usually try to go, and just why not this one?
My thing is I just hadn't enjoyed the last few. Like I said, Quantumania I didn't go see in theaters either because I just was so burnt out of going to the theaters to see these things and then leaving kind of deflated. Outside of Guardians 3, it seems like it's been a while. Like I said, I enjoyed I'm not going to lie and say I didn't enjoy like Shang-Chi. I enjoyed the Eternals. I mean, I did leave those movie theaters going, oh, those were different. I really liked those. And but the last string of them, Doctor Strange, Thor, Ant-Man, Secret Invasion, I wasn't really the biggest. I think Miss Marvel's the only Disney Plus show I didn't get all the way through. No, I did get through that one, but kind of reluctantly, like it was on while I was working. I didn't sit down and watch that one, and it just there was nothing about it that kind of, I was like, what's the point? I think ever since Loki season 1, where they kind of cracked open, I've talked about this many times, where they cracked open the multiverse and then never really did anything with it. It was kind of like, do they even know what they're doing? So just kind of been deflated of the MCU as a whole, and wanting something that feels good, and nothing's really felt good. I'm one of those people in the camp that's kind of like, outside of moments that I enjoy, and it's like Endgame kind of, I wish they would have took a couple years off. How about you?
Because money has to be made.
I understand that. And there's lots of money to be made still, and they're still making money. I mean, the Marvels will still end up finding money somewhere.
Well, it's funny that like a $47 million opening weekend like used to be considered successful, or considered successful for a lot of movies, but being a movie in the like a cog in the giant Marvel Disney universe, you imagine much more. That's why it's being looked at as a flop. Like in other circumstances, it might be considered a success, but not with the amount of money it costs to make and what it was expected to make.
Don't make these movies for $275 million. Like, to make a couple more creative risks and focus on the story, and then make the budget around that. Don't spend $700 million to flash it up and just like make it look like a spectacle, and then when you watch it, it's paper thin.
Yeah, and I mean, and also at the end of the day, this is their money; they can spend it and lose it. I don't.
But is there what universe? And obviously we live in it, but for what reason should Ant-Man film? Ant-Man 3. Why should an Ant-Man movie cost $200 million to make? Ant-Man.
I don't know. It's the cost of doing business these days. Like
Ant-Man should not cost $200 million. Ant-Man should be costing like $75 million to make.
Well, that's because Ant-Man 1 and Ant-Man 2 were like small adventures, because Ant-Man is he's not Superman. He's not Batman. He's like, he should be on an Ant-Man adventure, not running around the quantum bursts and like trying to save the world. Like I don't need an adventure of Ant-Man trying to save the world. I want Ant-Man on a heist with his little gang of buddies like they left out of part 3 again. Like
right?
that's an Ant-Man movie to me. I don't know. My thing with the Marvels is I didn't hate the first Captain Marvel movie, but I didn't love it. Um, Nothing against like the character. The character's fine. It's just not. I'm not super interested in. I don't read Captain Marvel comics, um, so I don't really love the character in the first place. The first one kind of bored me. Miss Marvel was okay. It wasn't great for me, and like a lot of times when I get brought into these movies, a lot of time it's because of the villain. I want to see the villain. I couldn't even tell you who the villain of this movie is. Like it's not somebody I'm familiar with. It's like it was some like I'm unprepared to tell you who it is because I don't know. And a lot of times when I go to see superhero movies, I'm interested because like, oh man, it's gonna be awesome to see Gore the God Butcher.
That's the one I was about to say. Christian Bale be Gore the God Butcher? Hell yeah.
Like that's part of what got me to Thor: Love and Thunder. Like I want to see the villains of my favorite comics just as much as the heroes. And like this one not having one, that was like, all right, I don't even know what this is about. I don't know who's in like whatever. So I don't know. I'm not saying I'll never see it, but
Oh, I'll totally watch it. I mean, I'm
what,
still tempted to go see it because it's just for one simple fact that it's under 2 hours.
right.
I'm like, hell yeah, an hour 40 to go see a superhero movie. That I could do that. So I mean, there's still a temptation there for me just to go see it, and just see what it is. But Disney Plus most likely for me. Um, but we did have a big shakeup coming out of the MCU, and it kind of correlates with something we talked about last week, talking about Loki season 2, and that is that the director of Kang's Dynasty, so the next Avengers film, which is supposed to be the Kang Dynasty, just lost its director. So Destin Daniel Cretton, who did Shang-Chi, was tasked with directing the Kang Dynasty, and this week he got pulled out and said he's remains involved in Wonder Man and Shang-Chi 2, but he is and in talks to direct future movies, but he is not the director of Kang's Dynasty anymore. And it kind of begs that question of what the next news we hear is that movie's being called something different, right?
Well, yeah, that just correlates directly into he's not the director of the King Dynasty anymore because the King Dynasty at this point I don't believe exists,
Mm-hmm.
as was told to us during their reveal of their timeline of movies. I think it's more likely now than not that movie's not going to happen as was planned. I think it's going to be called something else.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is a combination of the multiverse storylines kind of being down and not generating as much interest as stuff before. Compile that with what's going on with Jonathan Majors in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marvel is probably more than willing to kind of call an audible here and change things up and not move forward because it's nothing against the director. He made one of their best movies of the past few years in Shang-Chi. So he's still doing that. I'm sure they'll bring him in for something else. The only viable reason I can see for them doing this is like that movie's not happening anymore. Like I think the writer of Jeff Loveness, who wrote Quantumania, he was supposed to write either Secret Wars or maybe it was King Dynasty. He was writing one of them, and he got pulled off that too recently. So it's like all this stuff just kind of is pointing me in the direction that we ain't getting no King Dynasty. So that's just my. Don't have any solid reporting of that or information. They're not going to reveal that, I don't think, until they're ready. But that's kind of what it's leading me to believe.
Yeah. Even in this article by Epic Stream, they're basically saying that won't be surprising when it's no longer called King Dynasty, and they'll either change it to a new possible title or turn it into Secret Wars Part 1.
I can see that. I mean, they did Infinity War. Into 2 movies. Infinity War and Endgame were like
Part 1, Part 2.
Part 2, same thing. So, interesting.
And now I know we kind of dove into this a little bit because obviously coming out of the end of Loki season 2, there was some they kind of left it the ending that Kang's kind of taken care of. He's no longer really a threat. We're keeping an eye on him. If any of his variants kind of cause trouble, we'll be there to stop it. It's pretty much what they said. It's really easy to go either way with it, but I mean, for the most part, that character was kind of taken care of at the end of Loki season 2. So now seeing that we had Kang, the Conqueror, in Loki season 1, in Ant-Man Quantumania, and in Loki season 2, is that good enough for that character to be that's their run?
I think that's a wrap, man. I think that's a wrap. And it's not because Jonathan Majors isn't good at the role. It's just because of all these other things. It's not good enough. I think Kang is a interesting character that they could have really been successful with, but I just think the way they've kind of pieced these together and all this multiverse stuff has not been going well. And he's like, if you're gonna do a multiverse saga, which they're doing, yeah, your Infinity Saga now, this is called the multiverse saga. If you're gonna have parts that don't match up with each other and all kind of all over the place, and you introduced us to Kang in Ant-Man, and he just kind of looked weak because he got beat by Ant-Man. How's he going to take on everybody? You know, like
that was the biggest thing that seems crazy to me. That they're like, all right, we want Kang. He's going to be. We're in the middle of the multiverse saga. Kang, we're naming an Avengers movie after him. The Kang Dynasty. We're going to build this dude up to be the next Thanos and be like the next big bad, and he's going to fuck some shit up. And then we're going to put him in Ant-Man 3, and he's just going to get killed because we have other variants. Does that make him seem threatening to you? Like, he should have fucking killed Ant-Man. Ant-Man should have died in that movie. That should have been his swan song, and they were teasing that, like, in the trailer. So I guarantee you there's probably either scenes of that they filmed or a version of the script that is that was Ant-Man's. I mean, there's no reason Ant-Man should have survived. Kang should have killed him in that movie. Like 100%. What do you need? What much more do you need from that character anyway? That should have been his swan song, and Kang, he should have been the sacrificial lamb for Kang to really be able to stand up and be like, yeah, now what?
Yeah,
you can't stop me. Like, you can't. That was what they did with Thanos in all of Infinity War. He just was messing shit up and destroying people. And Kang should have been wrecking fools in Ant-Man Quantumania. Like, that should have never happened the way that it did.
No, I don't think he should have never been the villain of that movie in the first place. If you wanted to use a different variant of Jonathan Majors, not like Kang the Conqueror, you could have, I suppose. Yeah. But saying, yeah, this is Kang, like the big one, he's the main one, and we're just gonna let him fight Ant-Man and lose. Like,
yeah,
we didn't have Thanos pop up and fight. Like, let's say Thanos popped up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, and they like beat his ass. And then all of a sudden they're just like, hey guys, he's going to be back and take on everybody, even though he just lost to the Guardians in this movie. But don't think he's still good, right?
Like, yeah, no. It's like Mandalorian in Iron Man 3. Mm-hmm. You're all pumped up for one thing and you get something completely different, and you're like, why was he in this movie? Like, why did you choose to put the Mandalorian in this movie and not make him be the Mandalorian? Like,
the Mandalorian.
There it is. Got too many things on my brain.
Too many Mandos.
It felt wrong, but I was just sticking with it. I'm all about commitment.
I know. I feel you.
You just see the trip through, and you play it off.
Sure.
Anyway, but it's crazy to me that Ant-Man survived that film.
Yeah. And this is just poor choices, and part of what is, I think, aiding in this decision that we are speculating on. We don't know for sure they're going to.
Of course.
But, like, we're not the only ones talking about this. Like, it's out there. Like, word is, like, the feeling is inside their offices, they're considering moving away from him. And I can understand why. Like, I get it.
And that's on, like, mainstream level, not just like us out here just like yelling into, an empty cloud here. It's like Variety and Hollywood Reporter and like really big establishments that are reporting on this, saying, whoops, that's a wrap on Jonathan Majors and Kang the Conqueror, which is kind of a bummer. I was kind of excited for more. So now does this, and I know that there are some Marvel's aspects to this that kind of muddies up what this question is going to be, but is that kind of the end of the multiverse for Marvel? Like, is the MCU going to shift into Secret Wars? I honestly don't, and this is kind of, bad for me, but I don't know much about Secret Wars. So I don't know if that has multiverse ties or anything that's crazy about that. I know it's a lot with Doctor Doom and doing a lot of stuff with that, but is there any, are we done with this multiverse thing?
I mean, Secret Wars has to do with like timelines and stuff as well, but there's other ways they can go about it just to take the Kangness out of it. They can shift.
Yeah.
There's ways that they can shift and still do Secret Wars, I think. Um,
I'll have to read it.
there was going to be a lot of movies in between now and Secret Wars to kind of set everything up, so they have time to kind of do what they need to do if they're making a switch. Um, I don't know. The thought is, I think this might just be people wanting to wish it into existence, but a lot of people are just like, all right, guys, now's your time. Switch to Doctor Doom. He's the next big bad that we wanted anyway.
Yeah.
Some people think he should have been it all along, and there's just something about that idea that excites me, and I kind of hope they consider it maybe earlier than they wanted to. But I mean, we got Fantastic Four coming. We're going to talk about rumors of Fantastic Four casting. Like, get us our Doctor Doom. Get your Darth Vader of the MCU. That's what he basically is. Like, just go to him, man. Like, let him be the guy. Let him carry it. If you got it, maybe this is just me speaking because I'm getting tired of multiverse stuff. I don't read a lot of multiverse comics, and the multiverse MCU has not really gone the way I wanted it to. I've liked some of it, but haven't loved a lot of it. So I don't know. I'm kind of crossing my fingers that if we do see a change, we are going the Doom direction.
Yes, I agree with all of that. Now, clearly, with the Marvels and the teases and things that happened in that movie, from my understanding without seeing it, so like I said, I can only speak so far. It seems like there are, and even watching the trailers, they're like, oh, another universe is colliding with ours. And clearly, there were post-credit scenes that had characters from other film series. And it seems like they're doing a full thing with the X-Men, and they're really trying to merge Fox's X-Men with the MCU instead of starting over.
At least for now, because we're still in timeline era. Yes.
Because we know we're getting Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. So, I mean, all the conversations everyone had about recasting a Wolverine, that's still not coming to pass. And the rumor, as you talked about, Secret Wars starring Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. So I know Hugh Jackman said he wasn't doing shit after, I'm never doing this again after Logan because I feel like I want to die trying to get into this physical shape. Marvel, throwing around that money, got him to hit up the gym once again to don this and basically making him an offer he can't refuse to basically lead the MCU now. He led the Fox X-Men since 2000. Been 23 years that Hugh Jackman's been leading the Fox X-Men, being the face of that franchise, and now the MCU is gonna try to make him do it again.
Well, it's like, also, have you seen Hugh Jackman in much since Logan?
No, well,
smaller kind of
smaller. Yeah, he obviously hasn't done anything big, but smaller stuff. I know he does a lot of stage stuff too, so I know he keeps busy. But yes, you're from a movie standpoint, you're right.
Yeah, he wants that big paycheck again, man. I don't blame him.
Yeah, because how much do you think he made for Deadpool 3? That information might be out there, but I guarantee you it's a shit ton of money.
Oh, for sure.
So now the question is, if we're going to move on from Kang and we're really going to shift gears, Fantastic Four obviously seems like, really, as I talked about before we started recording, was like they're the first family of Marvel. That's how they've always been known. They're always integral in pretty much every storyline across the board. Is the Fantastic Four going to be the new Iron Man, and can they turn it around? Like, is Fantastic Four really the next? I know everyone kind of says, oh, Secret Wars, and super excited about that, but Fantastic Four, I think, is set to come out before Secret Wars, right?
It is.
So Fantastic Four, obviously there's been huge rumors about the casting of the Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and who's going to be these characters, and we have a couple more we're going to talk about here in a second. But like, is that the franchise to kind of like bring it all back together?
It's a good question. I don't know. They definitely have the ability to do that. The Fantastic Four is a known like I think kind of like a household name, maybe not as much as a Spider-Man or a Superman or a Batman, of course not. But people know who the Fantastic Four is. I mean, we had an episode where we watched the Fantastic Four movies that did fine for themselves.
Yeah,
People know
those movies did well for what they were.
so I think it definitely has the ability to. People have been asking for kind of just waiting out the rights to Fantastic Four and all those other properties to come back to Marvel Studios so they could do their own Fantastic Four movie. So that's exciting. Um, I think it could. I think it is probably what people are most excited for now, just to see what the Fantastic Four looks like in the MCU. Um,
And I agree with you. And the biggest thing of that is the casting of the Fantastic Four, which we've been waiting for what, 2 years, as to who the hell are going to be. Is it going to be in this movie? Who are you casting as these characters? How old are they going to be? All of the rumors, which ones are true, which ones aren't, which ones like could we see? There's tons of stuff. We got a huge rumor this week as to who is going to be Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and it is being met kind of with a polarizing reaction, I think, and we are going to dive into that. Before we talk about the Mr. Fantastic casting rumors, we want to talk about something else that we find fantastic, and that's Magic Mind. We've been grateful enough for Magic Mind to sponsor the last few episodes of this show, and we've been taking and trying out the product for the last couple of weeks now. And the one thing I've noticed is that my focus has been a lot kind of more focused, I guess, for lack of a better word. But I've noticed my comic book to read pile getting a little bit smaller. And I've been kind of reading more comics, been able to sit still long enough to read comics. Have you noticed anything with your focus or your attention?
that is our thing. We've talked about here in the past is our comic book piles getting out of control, and just I need time to actually do this, and like the mindset to actually get through it. So that is definitely where Magic Mind comes in. So yeah, it's definitely been aiding me in that. Knocked my to read pile down a couple notches. I still got a little ways to go.
Feels good. I mean, they come out every Wednesday, so I mean, it's never going to go away, and I don't want it to go away because I love reading my comics.
Sure, I've definitely found more focus in the day.
And I think a lot of that is just the all natural ingredients like the matcha caffeine that are in that, the matcha green tea caffeine that kind of does some of that, as well as some of the mushrooms, which are surprising in there, the lion's mane mushrooms and the cordyceps mushrooms, that both kind of help with some inflammation and help reduce anxiety and some of those things that I think we feel when we look at our comic book pile and go, oh my God, and you just get anxious and instead kind of feel a little excited. So I think it's definitely a product that's worth a shot. Check out Magic Mind over at magicmind.com/raisedgeek using the code GEEK20. That's GEEK20. So you can head on over there, and your first order is up to 56% off if you do a subscription. So definitely check that out. One of the biggest things to help recommend this is, I know when you look at these green juices, you look at stuff like that, you wonder, what does it taste like? And we could tell you, tastes pretty good. It's a shot. It's just a quick, take, as opposed to some of the competitors that I've tried where you have to drink 8, 10, 12 ounces and it tastes terrible. I've had some that do taste terrible. So this one is definitely one that I don't struggle to take every day. So definitely check out Magic Mind over at magicmind.com/raisedgeek. And that code for saving up to 56% off your subscription with the code GEEK20. That's GEEK20. So now with that said, we need to talk about these fantastic rumors, Miss Reed Richards specifically, because we didn't really hear shit about any other character. I know Vanessa Kirby from Mission Impossible has pretty much supposedly been locked in for months as Sue Richards. If you go on to IMDb, she's like the only one that's kind of like official in quotes. So definitely, we don't know shit else about this movie. They've kept it completely quiet, or they just don't know. But we got news this week that Pedro Pascal is currently in talks to play Reed Richards. And I think there's small corners of the internet that exploded in different ways. But it's kind of a polarizing choice because, you can't not love Pedro Pascal, but can you not love him as a choice for Reed Richards?
It's just one of those things, man. Superhero casting is always going to be met with love from one side, loud hatred from another side, indifference, complaining, championing. We've been through it. How many times have we been through it? They didn't like Heath Ledger as Joker. They didn't like Christian Bale as Batman. Nobody wanted to see
Michael Keaton as Batman. Nobody wanted to see Ben Affleck as Batman. No,
right. It's just always going to be a thing.
unless you cast an unknown, someone's going to be mad.
Yeah, yeah. But then even when you cast unknowns, people don't like it. Like when you cast Henry Cavill, people are like, I want somebody I know. I want whoever. Uh, so we're just kind of going through that again here, I guess. But it is interesting because Pedro Pascal is kind of the guy right now, and he's riding high on The Mandalorian and The Last of Us, and he's got another film coming soon that's pretty big. I can't think of who it is right now, but he's attached to a big film that's coming with a big director. So he's just kind of like the guy. He's a top Hollywood guy right now that people just like.
He's one of the biggest.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised that they went after him, and he's kind of their top choice. Now nothing is confirmed yet. That's why we're just talking about it as rumors.
That's all it is. Yeah.
It was all over the place. Like, this isn't then again us just making shit up. This is reported from a lot of things. He's the top.
He is in talks to be this character. Whether or not he is that will be the character is completely different. And a lot of this could have leaked just to see what the reaction would be. And when I see polls on IGN that 71% says they don't like it, that might ruin the talks, but it might not, because he is kind of the go-to golden boy at the moment. Like you said, one of the top stars.
Well, 71% didn't like it. Why do we think that is? What is, and I don't know, just like, what is your feeling on it? Because we both agree that we love Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about this rumor, though?
I don't like it. It's hard to really, really pinpoint exactly why, but I'm going to try. It's just completely different than I thought. One, to me, I felt like he's older than I expected the character to be, so that was kind of jarring. And not saying he can't do it, because we kind of saw it with Wonder Woman 84, but I've never seen him really, outside of Wonder Woman 84, like really cleaned up. He's always rough. He's always kind of like the tough guy that like most people are calling him now, like everyman daddy, like everybody just wants him to be their dad. They did a whole skit on Saturday Night Live about that, huh?
Especially the ladies.
Especially the ladies, yeah. So, I mean, good for him, but that does nothing for me. I just, like I said, it's really hard to picture. I can't not say that he won't do it, but then it's like, okay, well then who do you cast as Sue Storm to be his counterpart? Who do you cast? Like, does him and Vanessa Kirby work? As like, I mean, I have no idea what their chemistry is going to be. Is she too young for him and it's going to be weird? When we had John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness, he was a father, which they talked about in that film. So it's like they're technically, if they're going to keep that at least age frame, you're kind of going to have to assume that they're going to be together and possibly even have kids in this movie. So can you see that? Like, there's just so many variables that it changes my impression in my head, which is my head, and that's my thing. But it changes the vision of what I expect this movie to be. And it's just jarring. So the immediate reaction is no. I don't like that, because it's just so different. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. Yeah, and I kind of had all those same thoughts too. My biggest thing is the age. I'll just put it out there now. But I've had some time to sit and think with this. I think Pedro Pascal is 48. I think I 48 years old.
I read that.
That does seem old to kind of try to start a franchise around somebody, because you have a sequel. It's in at least longer than 2 years. So he'll be 50 years old playing a superhero. But then again, I look at him as a guy who could probably play younger if he needs to. He could, if he popped up on the screen and someone told me he was 40, I'd be like, all right, I believe it. You know what I mean?
Wonder Woman 84, he was clean shaved, cleaned up, didn't lost the gray, did some of that stuff. I mean, you can definitely put him at younger than he actually is. We're thinking Last of Us, Pedro Pascal, where he's all grayed out and looks worn and is supposed to be older. So, I mean, there's definitely that vision in our heads.
Right. And then I started looking around the MCU and looking at who we have around right now. You have your young actors who are kind of on this side, and they're all kind of like doing this young superhero movement. Whether that's the Young Avengers or whatever you want to say, or handing the torch off for future movies, you got them over here. But then you still got these people on this other side who are like these long running. You got your Loki, you got Thor, you have Doctor Strange. Um, I mean, there's a few others if I sit and think about it. Actually, Scarlet Witch, and I imagine them putting Pedro Pascal in a room with them, and like him wearing the Fantastic Four suit and like the Mister Fantastic outfit. Like he looks right with them. Like he fits in with that group of like the elder.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different because you're starting now, and all those other characters have been around for so long.
Right.
He's the same age as Benedict Cumberbatch, or however you say his name. Like, so if you're gonna have these two guys leading an Avengers versus whoever, Doom, whoever you want to fight, like I can see it, and I don't know. I just think he's a good enough actor to be able to like have range. I don't want to just box him in and be like he can't be anybody but Joel.
Mm-hmm.
I think he, if give him the opportunity, I think he would kill it. So I do have my reservations about it, just because it's not what I expected. But
Yeah.
I'm not the one making these decisions. I'm sure they thought of 100 different people, and if they think that he can do it and he is their top choice, and I like him, so like it's like, well,
Yeah, I don't know the script.
yeah,
Like, I don't know what the plan is for this movie. I don't know what age they want. I don't know what they're planning. I don't know if he's supposed to have a bunch of kids and like he's supposed to be older. Like, I don't know the story they're telling. They could tell some crazy story where he's coming into it and then something happens in the multiverse and he gets de-aged and they introduce a new Reed Richards that's 20 years old at the end when he goes back in time. Like, God only knows what they're planning on trying to do with this, with the current like MCU storylines and where they're going. So I mean, they could have all kinds of different things in mind. I'm never gonna be like Pedro Pascal. No, I mean Pedro Pascal's the man. I would have been almost, and then this kind of ties into a couple other things, but I could almost see him as Doom.
sure.
Like I could see pull out that nasty edge a little bit and really own it. And clearly he has experience working under a mask, which might be why I'm leaning that way. But I mean, as we've seen in other movies, I don't imagine whatever Doctor Doom they do is to be under a mask the entire time. I'm picturing it like a Magneto in the X-Men, where he only put the mask on in certain climactic moments. But I could just see that and would like almost want to see him take that turn and not be the hero and be like kind of an opportunity to be vicious. He was the bad guy in Wonder Woman 84, but he was kind of a joke bad guy. But to see him be Doom, I think that would be kind of fun to watch. So I mean, my initial instinct is like cast him as Doom and let's have some fun. But yeah, I can't. He needs to prove to me, like said, and like this sounds terrible, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Like when I think of him, to make that face, it's hard to picture smartest man in the world.
Okay.
Like because usually that's what that character is known as, is like smartest man in the world. So it's just like, can Pedro Pascal do that? And once again, it's acting. Anybody can act. So
Yeah.
I'm not doubting the possibility. If they make it official that Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards, I'm cool. Like, cool, let's go. Give me the rest. I want to know what else you're thinking. And I think the full roundup of the cast across the board is going to like show you what that's going to be and make that casting make more sense. And part of that, as we talked about, is that it was also rumored this week that Javier Bardem is going to be Galactus, or rumored to be Galactus, which is out of left field for me as well, because I didn't even think about Galactus. I've only been thinking about Doom. And now when you put Javier Bardem next to Pedro Pascal, I'm like, all right, I see what you guys are doing. Okay.
We got ourselves a little superstar cast.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, you're putting these two together, doing some stuff. They're supposed to be friends anyway, so it makes sense. They're the right age. They can really lean off of each other. I'm like, all right, now we're starting to talk about something that I might want to see.
Well, we all know Javier Bardem can play a menacing person. One of the greatest villains of all time is No Country for Old Men. Like, still see that guy in my waking nightmares. I'd be great with that. I would love it. I mean, there's sometimes a level of actor who you don't think would do Marvel. He seems like one of them would just be like, Marvel. What the hell is Marvel superhero? But like, hey man, if he wants on board, bring him.
He
Bring him
he
on
did
board.
James Bond. I figured he'll do anything.
Okay, maybe so. Uh, but yeah, like I like the idea of one Galactus being the villain for um the first Fantastic Four movie and not Doom, because we're gonna use Doom like for more.
Right.
Doom has a longer path. I don't want Doom being, you know, in Fantastic Four, they beat him, and then you're still trying to use him for other stuff. Like, no, build Doom. Like, do your Galactus villain movie and have Doctor Doom just kind of lurking, or in an end credit scene, or is Victor changing into Doctor Doom throughout that whole entire movie, and then he becomes Doom at the end of it. So we're now using him for a later thing. Like, that's the path you need to go down.
Doom needs to be in this movie
Sure.
at some capacity. We need to know who that character is. We need to know what his relationship is with the Richards, and the rest of that group. We need to know all of those things, but he definitely does not need to be the bad guy. He needs to build into the bad guy in some way, or he needs to be a Lex Luthor type who is like using Galactus to get what he wants. Like, there needs to be a bigger plan in place for Doom than just being, Tim Burton's the Joker.
Right. And or make him fucking like um why can't I think of his name? The Batman Begins director.
Chris
Uh
Nolan.
Chris Nolan. Jesus. At the end of Batman Begins, like in Batman Begins, he fought Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow, and at the end, Commissioner Gordon pulled out the Joker card and was like, "There's a new guy." Blah, blah. And Batman's like, "I'll look into it." Yeah, you don't have to use your biggest ace up your sleeve right away. Like, let us
No.
introduce us to the Fantastic Four, and um,
Like I said, it needs to be an origin story for them and him, basically, in some way. It needs to be kind of tied in with that. So I don't know how deep of an origin they want to do, but it needs to be somewhere tied in with some of that.
yeah.
Now, as we talk about some of these casting things, have you had any, like, we've had tons of rumors over, what do we say, 2-3 years? Has there been anybody that stood out that you wish would just be announced as casting? Do you have any dream casting for any of these characters? I talk about Pedro Pascal being Doom. That kind of is turning into a dream for me, but just kind of curious as to if you have any thoughts off the top of your head, or if you, I know we asked this ahead of time, if you gave it any thought.
I know one of the rumors for a while was like Josh Hartnett for Mr. Fantastic. I don't know, something about that worked in my mind.
Yeah.
Just look at his age. That's because that's the age I thought they were gonna do.
Yeah.
I know we've had, the Adam Drivers and all that, and none of those have really stuck out to me. I know there's a big circle of people. I don't know if it's a big circle of people, but a large portion of people who still are on this train for, my goodness, what is his name? Jim from The Office?
Oh, John Krasinski.
John Krasinski to come back and do it again. And like, okay, I know that was a fan casting for a long time, and you got to see him in Doctor Strange, but I hate to break it to you guys, but he wasn't that good at it. Like nothing about his performance there like said to me we can make a franchise with this guy. So you got to see it because he looks kind of like him, and you wanted to see it. But so I'm good with it not being him.
Yeah, me too.
One of the rumors I saw that like really had my juices flowing was and it was for either one, and they were talking about either one of these brothers being in this movie, but like the Skarsgård brothers, one of them being Dr. Doom, whether it was either one of them, like Bill or
Alexander Skarsgård being Doctor Doom would be kind of sick.
no, it would. He's amazing and menacing.
Yeah.
And, now, if we go with Pedro Pascal, I don't think they're going to do that because they're just too different in ages. I think we're going to try to get someone closer, probably to Pedro if they're going that way. But my God, I imagine Alexander Skarsgård as Doom. As soon as I saw that, and I was like, dude, he's tall, he's mean, he can be scary. Like even in stuff like Succession, the dude is scary. And then like in True Blood and all the movies he's been in, and just like I'd love that dude to come in as something in the MCU at some point.
Dude, he was in Battleship.
Stop talking.
I'm going to make you watch Battleship one time so we could talk about it on this show.
Yeah, the title of that episode like Chris forced Don to watch.
Yeah, I'll be in town here for Christmas, so get ready. Force you to watch Battleship. There are a couple of people I thought of that popped in my head. A lot of them that you kind of talked about. Alexander Skarsgård definitely came up across the board as can he do either Reed Richards or Doom? Bill Skarsgård popped in there as well. So there's definitely some similarities in there. One that I thought of that hasn't made the MCU yet that I'm kind of surprised about, which is Chris Pine.
Okay.
I could kind of see him going that route. I had the one casting, which is for completely out of left field, but now I need it. I was looking through and I was kind of researching this. Is John Cena as the Thing? I kind of need that now.
Sure.
Like I want John Cena as the Thing. Like to me, that just is hilarious. Even with Pedro Pascal, that works. They're same age. It works for me. I want, and it's like I said, changes a lot of other things, and we already saw this with the reboot that people being uncool. But Idris Elba,
Sure.
I could see doing it. Same with, I mean, and I could see him as Doom or Reed Richards. Like I could just see it. He just has that kind of confidence with him that I would really like. Which then I casted Kerry Washington, if you know who that is.
You.
She would be a great Sue Storm. Like I think she could play the part more than just fit into the costume.
Sure.
Like I liked them as kind of like the couple there. And then I struggled with trying to find out. Like I was casting the whole group, and I'm like, so if I have Idris Elba, Kerry Washington, and John Cena, who's going to be Johnny Storm? So I struggled with that one a lot more. The closest I came with trying to find something that fit in was Damon Wayans Jr.
Come on.
I had Donald Glover there for a little bit. I thought Donald Glover could probably do it. Because between Community, we've seen him do between Atlanta and Community, we've seen him be serious and goofy. So like I think he could walk that line between kind of like that cockiness.
Yeah.
He's a little bit younger than the rest of the cast would be. So I mean, I'm digging this. So those are some of the names that kind of came to mind.
Yeah, it's
like I said, just having fun. Just having fun.
Yeah, the thing with I think Idris Elba would be great. The problem we keep running into is these actors who've already been in the MCU. Like he was Heimdall.
Oh
already.
fuck, he was.
So that would be hard to do. Not impossible. They've done it before. Like I've even seen. I saw a rumor recently out there that like they're looking at Doom for and I don't know how to say his name, but it's like Mads Milken.
Oh yeah.
Like they were looking at him for Doom, but I'm like he was in Doctor Strange, like already as a villain in the MCU. So it's like you can't when you use these people already once, it's hard to kind of.
Yes. Well, I'm fantasy casting here, so I mean that means I should be allowed to use them. Because my other thing would be, I honestly would love to see Chris Evans be Johnny Storm again.
That was
that, or have Chris Evans be Mr. Fantastic. Have him be Reed Richards. That'd be hilarious.
That was always kind of tossed around as like a multiverse thing. Like if you're having all these Fox characters pop in, have Chris Evans pop in, and everyone is crazy because they think it's Captain America, but they're like, no, it's Johnny Storm.
That would be amazing. That would be just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that would be funny.
They did it a little bit in WandaVision with what's his face showing up as Quicksilver.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. So it's not unheard of.
That'd be cool. And that seems to be the path that they're going down, is using these multiverse to bring these Fox characters in. So I wouldn't be surprised. Sure. Chris Evans was technically a Fox Fantastic Four character, so he could be open to do that. So anyway, that's just some good fun that we kind of had going in here. But the MCU's kind of got an uphill battle as we're shifting gears here, coming off of kind of the Kang debacle. It seems like it's going to be known as in my head. I don't know what's going to be called for real, but Kang debacle for me is how that's shaken out.
Just call it that.
But I'm obviously still pumped up for whatever they're going to announce. I just want this cast. It's been years of my life that I've wondered who's going to be the MCU's Fantastic Four, and they're dragging their feet.
Well, they just need some good press too here. Like after everything was like Marvel was not making as much money as you want. Like Loki was okay critically, but I don't know how much of a viewership success that was. Like I feel like Marvel needs to get some buzz again, and I think kind of getting this cast out as soon as you can is going to kind of help. Like
as long as you get it right, in quotes.
Right.
Because like I said, if 71% of IGN, and that's bullshit anyway, but it's still a polling of some capacity. And if 71% is saying he's not the right person, then I mean it might look different when you show the whole lineup,
Mm-hmm.
but it may not. And then you're right back kind of where you are and trying to find, where do I find good press?